ask myself this question: where have all the NGOs, where have all the civil society groups disappeared? This is the time for them to come out.
If the mainstream media had paid enough attention on the Manipur crisis from day one, probably the central government or the union government or the state government would have forced to do something to stop this violence. Do you think that the media has clearly failed? The mainstream media, the national channels, all of them have failed, in creating, uh, in stopping this violence in Manipur.
See, you know what we are today as media organizations. Did any single media person ask the Prime Minister a question on Manipur? Did you hear that? Did you hear anyone? I mean, in normal circumstances, that is the first thing that the media would do. Mr. Prime Minister, what do you have to say on Manipur? But did you have any single journalist do that? Did you have any single journalist asking Amit Shah, all this is happening? What is the Home Ministry doing? What are you doing to bring this conflict to some kind of end? And then also the fact that a peace committee was formed after the Union Home Minister came to Manipur, and that peace committee was headed by the Chief Minister himself. I mean, that is a farce. That is a drama you're acting out. A peace committee has to be headed by somebody that is trusted by both sides of the divide, you know, and it should be an organic thing that comes from the people themselves. People themselves should desire peace. At this point, you don't see that happening in Manipur. But I'll come back again to the media. So the media today is reduced to a cacophony because we are not able to ask hard questions to the right people. We are only asking, I mean, we are doing these TV debates every evening, calling people of political parties who will have their say. It's almost like you're giving them a platform to sort of enhance the image of their parties. We are not doing a favor at all to anyone.
And finally, ma'am, what exactly Manipur needs now?
Manipur needs the healing touch. There's no doubt about it. There's a crisis of sorts, a humanitarian crisis. There is lack of medicines, and food grains are not being allowed. One group is stopping transport from going to the hills. Another one is stopping them from coming to the valley. So, I mean, there has to be somebody who who rises above these two ethnicities and somebody who has a voice that people respect, who can come up and play the role of an interlocutor, who can play the role of a, a peace builder. And I also ask myself this question: where have all the NGOs, where have all the civil society groups disappeared? This is the time for them to come out. If you remember, even in the 2002 Godhra riots, there are civil societies like Seva, for instance, and they just froze. They didn't know how to react. And I think this is something that perhaps we need to train ourselves on: how to act during times of conflict, how to prevent uh, communities from freezing into their own little zones and not talk to each other anymore. How do we do that? How do we how do we regulate the tempers of people who just don't mind about uh, burning houses, razing things to the ground? This whole revenge and retaliation, where does it come from? Where does so much anger come from? Maybe we need some institutions for peace building, some institutions for anger management, and all that.
For some reason, Oxfam keeps running into trouble with Indian authorities. In 2021, the NGO's foreign funding was blocked. The Home Ministry refused to renew Oxfam's license. Again, this was over quote-unquote adverse inputs. After an audit of the NGO's books of accounts, ultimately, India decided to not renew Oxfam's licenses. And what does Oxfam say in its defense? It has approached the Delhi High Court to get its license back. It says it is cooperating with all government agencies. And here's something else you should know. Between 2018 and 2022, India has cancelled close to 2,000 FCRA registrations. And in 2022, almost 6,000 NGOs lost their licenses in India, their registrations seized. The NGOs either did not apply for renewal or the Home Ministry refused to sanction their applications. Oxfam was on that list. Now, critics of the government say that these NGOs are being targeted without cause.
It is not about Kuki women or Meitei women. It is about the women of India. We're horrified that the video has leaked. The survivors who were able to tell their story before the video leaked do not want to speak anymore because they have been identified. Their identities have been revealed. They are petrified. We've been on the phone with their families all day. They say now their community leaders they're scared. This case may be shut down. They may be not allowed to come forth. And you know the stigma associated with sexual violence in our country. When you hear a woman break down and say, this is now about all Indian women, you know, will someone finally stand up? What do you think? What do you feel?
You know, I'm not sure I don't know who are all these Indian women. What we are hearing is that women are also divided along caste, religion, ethnicity lines. Dalit women have been paraded naked in this country. It's not happening for the first time. Very, very unfortunate. And I'm not saying that because it's happened in the past, it should happen again. But as women, we have not stood together. This country has not stood by women. Women have been divided. In fact, we are increasingly seeing the role of women participating in abetting crimes against women. So I don't know when all of us as human beings, our consciousness will be raised, but we will have to understand that women's bodies are targeted. And it's actually a vicious trap we are in. Women are seen as the repository of honor. Then the body is targeted to humiliate and degrade the entire community. Then the community says now we have to remain silent because we have all been shamed, and those very women are further silenced. So it is about all of us together breaking out of this and women understanding that they will not win in this pitting between caste, religion, ethnicity. We are not going to win this. And to the community leaders, we've seen this over and over again. To the community leaders, one would say, this is not, the wrong is not of the women. This is not the shame of the community. This is about injustice and crimes. And together with all of us, in fact, those women should be honored to be able to give them the courage to come forward. That is what Bhavari Devi did. And she changed the law for the women of this country, and this country has not given her justice. The courts of this country have not given her justice. And that is how we have to, those women have to become our leaders. We have to stand in support and solidarity. It is not their shame. Their faces we should mark with respect. We have to change this culture completely. And as women, we must take the lead. And the community leaders in such circumstances must open their minds and hearts to listening to the women. Their suffering should be foregrounded. Don't wait for the government. They are not going to do anything. The courts of law, Barka, it is only recently that the September 2013 Muzaffarnagar communal violence gang rape cases, we won one case in 2023. It took a decade and many activists. 7 women went to the Supreme Court in 2014. There is a reported judgment of March 2014 of the Supreme Court, bench chaired by the Chief Justice of India. One woman could survive the travails of time. Bilkis Bano's remission should haunt each one of us today. And no words of the government are going to assuage women of this country, because that remission is an executive act. The impunity is being signaled from the top.
Yeah, it's such an important point also that you mentioned about women being split along ethnic, religious, political, ideological, so many different lines. One of the things we've been facing ever since we've been reporting on this video, Vrinda, is members of the Meitei community of Manipur, and I am not taking away their suffering. When there is a conflict, there are extremist elements on both sides. Both sides have elements that are armed. This has been going on now for more than 60 days. If ever there was a case for president's rule, God knows this is one. But we have comments saying, why don't you show us that also? Why don't you show us this also? We've been doing our best to show everything that we come across, but this whataboutery is going to be the death of us standing together as women.
I totally agree, Barkha, and I think the questions should be asked: is the state administration, is the state government, is the central government, are they acting with impartiality and independence? The onus is on them. It is not whether Barkha has shown one story and 1 minute less of some other community. Why are the questions not being addressed to those who are wielding power over here? And we know, and the Chief Minister has said this just this morning in one of the television channels, these are not the only case. There are other cases of sexual violence. This has shaken our conscience. But we know that there are many others. People are in camps. Who is going to create that access to justice without activists supporting? And I'm sorry, I will say it here. Activists are being demonized, criminalized. A group of women went there who are part of various women's groups. They have FIR against them. You are not going to allow activists to enable the access. The state is not there to help women access justice. Lodging an FIR is not access to justice. So how will this country move? We are in a very, very deep crisis. Pious statements saying we are feeling very ashamed and we will give death sentence is not going, nobody is buying it anymore. Women are not accepting it. If you have to create access to justice, each one of those situations will have to be understood. How has this violence continued for so long, as you have rightly said? And in an ethnic clash, women will be targeted. We know that in this country. This country was born from the horrors of the partition violence. We know what happened then. It's the same thing. Where is that Amrit Kal today for these women?
You said that you need someone who can rise above these ethnicities, who can be trusted. Can the Prime Minister do this? Can Prime Minister Narendra Modi do this? Because remember, when Narendra Modi traveled to Manipur, he spoke about, or whenever he travels to Northeast, he talks about Ashtalakshmi and all that. Can he do that?
No. I don't think any politician has the capacity to do that, because it's politics that has brought in all this conflict, yeah? So you can't expect politics to bring the healing touch. It has to be somebody who's completely non-political, somebody who has, humanitarian concerns, who has a proven track record of being a peace builder of some kind. Now, where do we find such people today? We are all, even in the country, we are all so divided. We are all so polarized.